I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Wednesday, September the 30th, 2015. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas delivered his address today to the United Nations General Assembly, where he declared that the Palestinian Authority will no longer abide by agreements signed with Israel, because he claims Israel is not abiding by them. Abbas said so long as Israel refuses to commit to the agreement signed with us, cease settlement construction and release prisoners, Israel has left us no choice but to insist that we will not remain the only ones committed to these agreements. Israel, Abbas stated, must, quote, resume its responsibilities as an occupying power. In his speech, Abbas also accused Israel of scheming to divide the Temple Mount and of violating the status quo there. He also accused Israel of destroying all efforts towards the two-state solution. Abbas also said that Palestinians would continue to accede to all international organizations, including the International Criminal Court, and he asked the UN for their protection. Prior to his speech, Abbas, in an op-ed published yesterday in the Huffington Post, responded to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's calling the Palestinian leader back to the negotiating table earlier this week. The Times of Israel reports that Abbas wrote in response that Palestinians cannot directly negotiate with Israel, calling Israel the occupier. He wrote the peace process must be multilateral, suggesting the involvement of the international community in it. Soon after Abbas's speech at the UN today, the Palestinian flag was raised at the UN for the first time. The General Assembly had voted earlier this month to allow the two non-member states of the world body, namely the Palestinians and the Vatican, to fly their flags alongside those member nations. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addresses the General Assembly tomorrow. A rocket fired at Israel from Gaza was successfully intercepted last night by the Iron Dome missile defense battery. Sirens sent residents of Ashdod and of the Ashkelon Coast Regional Council running for their safe rooms and bomb shelters at around 10:45 local time last night, before the Iron Dome intercepted the incoming rocket and shot it down. There were no injuries or damage. Israel's Air Force retaliated for the rocket attack, hitting 4 Hamas terror targets overnight in Gaza. Salafist group the Sheikh Omar Hadid Brigade, which is affiliated with ISIS, claimed responsibility for the rocket attack. However, Israel holds Hamas, who controls the Gaza Strip, ultimately responsible. IDF spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner said Hamas is responsible and will be held accountable for every attack emanating from the Gaza Strip. The IDF, he said, will continue defending all Israelis who are repeatedly attacked by such blatant acts of aggression. Security in Jerusalem was high today as tens of thousands gathered at the Old City's Western Wall for Birkat HaKohanim, the priestly blessing traditionally given on the 3 pilgrimage festivals of Judaism, Passover, Shavuot, and the current holiday of Sukkot. Thousands of security forces were deployed in and around the Old City to ensure the safety of those in attendance today, especially considering the escalation in violence at the Temple Mount over the last few weeks. Yesterday saw more rioting at the holy site, and Israel police made several arrests of stone throwers and others disrupting the peace. Despite that, today's massive gathering at the Western Wall passed relatively quietly. The Jewish Daily Forward reports that before Pope Francis departed Sunday back to Rome, he made a surprise stop to convey his support for Catholic-Jewish relations. The pontiff stopped Sunday while in Philadelphia to bless a sculpture that was commissioned by the Institute for Jewish-Catholic Relations at St. Joseph's University. The Institute's partners include the American Jewish Committee, the Anti-Defamation League, and the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. The sculpture, called Synagoga and Ecclesia in Our Time, depicts 2 women, one holding a book, the other a scroll, looking at each other's sacred texts in respect. In Our Time is the definition of Nostra Aetate, the landmark document which is making its 50th anniversary this year. It opened the door to Jewish-Catholic relations. Pope Francis stopped to bless the statue together with close friend Rabbi Abraham Skorka, who had dedicated the sculpture just days before. Its pedestal bears a quote From the Pope, it reads, "There exists a rich complementarity between the Church and the Jewish people that allows us to help one another mine the riches of God's Word." And taking a look now at our programming for tonight, Wednesday, September the 30th. At 7 o'clock, JBS's exclusive coverage of a rabbinic rally of conscience for a better Iran deal, led by Rabbi Avi Weiss of the Hebrew Institute of Riverdale, held at the UN on September the 20th. At 8 o'clock, President of the Shalom Hartman Institute of North America, Yehuda Kurtzer, talks about American and Israeli Jewish communal life from Park Avenue Synagogue in New York. At 9, part 1 of a two-part discussion with Rabbi Mark S. Golub, together with Arab culture scholar Mordechai Kedar. At 10 o'clock, historian Simon Shama sits down with Jonathan Safran Fuhr about Shama's TV series The Story of the Jews from the 92nd Street Y. And right after this newscast tonight, syndicated journalist Micah Halpern focuses on the day after the Iranian deal in tonight's episode of Thinking Out Loud. And that's the JBS News Update for Wednesday, September the 30th, 2015. I'm Teisha Bader.